Welcome back to Runiverse. I'm Andrew. In this video, I'm playing Marvel Champions. A couple weeks ago, I did my first entry into the Champions Solo League. This is season 13, I believe. I played round 1, which was Ironheart against Claw. This time the hero is Spider-Gwen, or Ghost Spider. So this is the hero you have to play. You have a choice of aspect. I've chosen Aggression, and I found a deck list online to play, and I'll have a link to the deck list I'm using. Although the league rules make some adjustments. First of all, we're going to start with one of these Sinister Motives shield upgrades. I've chosen Shock Knuckles, and we're starting with a minion in play. We're starting with an extra threat on the main scheme. It would normally be 2 per player. We also get to resolve an extra mulligan, and we're going to have 1 aspect card from outside our aspect with the maximum number of copies. I've chosen an extra Justice Spider-Man to be in my deck. Now the solo league rules are that you play the scenario 3 times and you kind of combine your scores. When I did Ironheart, I played 3 times. The one on video was the 3rd game. In this case, I have played this 0 times, and I'm probably not going to play it the other 2 times. So I'm not really entering the solo league. I just thought it'd be fun to try it out on camera, even though, again, I have no affiliation with them. But we're playing Ghost Spider against the Sinister Six from Sinister Motives, and in this scenario, they are kind of chasing us through a tunnel, and we have to go find the light at the end. So we'll take a look in a second. But Ghost Spider, never played her before, but I have played Sinister Six actually as a 2-player solo game, or 2-handed solo with Gamora and Wasp. If you're interested, you can check that out. But Ghost Spider has 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense, and after you resolve an interrupt or response on an event, ready Ghost Spider once per phase. In an alter ego form as Gwen Stacy, you can either shuffle Ticket to the Multiverse from your discard pile into your deck, or ready George Stacy. Neither of those is going to be available to us right off the bat, depending on how we mulligan and what our hand ends up as. I haven't done that yet. The Sinister Six is special. We're starting with Hobgoblin and Vulture. Again, that's part of the solo league setup. It's meant to be random, but in this case, they actually tell you which villains to bring out on the first time you try, which villains to bring out the second time you try, and which villains to bring out the 3rd time you try. We've got Hobgoblin and Vulture. The other villains are Electro, Kraven, Scorpion, and Dr. Octopus. Those will be off to the side. We'll see some of them later, most likely. We can't actually win by defeating villains. If we defeat them, they actually help us advance light at the end, because this game started with 20 threat on it, which I'm going to be tracking with this dial. And when we get that to 0, we get to flip it to, instead of being trapped, take a closer look, instead of being trapped, we will be on our way out. What does it say? Chasing, or chased. So right now, the players cannot win unless they escape, so defeating any number of villains doesn't help us. When the last threat is removed from the scheme, we get to bring an ambush, which means trigger this, which basically means another villain comes out, and flip to light at the end. It gets another 15 threat, plus we get an extra encounter card. We can't win it, that'll be escape, but when the last threat is removed from here, we win. So that's 35 total threat we have to get to, in addition to the main scheme having a threshold of 8 before it advances. We don't lose at that, but it will advance to another negative thing for us. It starts at 3. We'll see Hobgoblin and Vulture more up close shortly. They have small hit points relative to other villains you might be used to, again, because this scenario expects that we'll be working through them. Hobgoblin has 9 and Vulture has 7. So I'm going to start with my 6 hand size and decide how to mulligan, and the scenario also lets me mulligan twice because of the campaign rules. All right, I'm gonna mulligan away a bunch of stuff, reasonable cards, but I didn't know if I'd be able to use them on the first turn. I actually did get George Stacy, and I haven't played her before, but the fact that he's mentioned, it's her dad, he's mentioned on her alter ego ability, feel like it must be good. Oh, and I did think I showed you Shock Knuckles, but I didn't read it. So after our hero makes a basic attack against an enemy, discard the top card of the encounter deck. If no boost icons were revealed, stun the enemy. So Gwen can attack a lot, and there are multiple villains at a time, generally speaking, depending on how we do this, so we'll see. Oh, also, the Common Criminal started in play, and if we spend a strength resource in alter ego form, we can deal 3 damage to it, and either draw a card or remove 3 threat from the main scheme, which is another way we might want to spend our resources. But it has to be a strength, huh? Alright, this is an awkward start, but despite all that mulliganing, I'm going to play Web Bracelet. Costs 2. I'm going to pay with a Genius. And it has a response after we resolve an interrupt or response on an event, exhaust web spider or web bracelet and draw a card. So that'll be nice later. Also going to go ahead and play Gwen Stacy. So this reminds me of some like Ms. Marvel supports, but he doesn't have any alter ego requirements. So events attached to him can be played as if they were in your hand, and as an action, exhaust him and attach an event from your hand to him, maximum 3. But again, no alter ego requirements. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll pay for him with Bug, unfortunately. Kind of wanted to play Bug. I'm going to attach this Ghost Kick to him, so we'll save that for next turn. And now Gwen Stacy is holding a Ghost Kick for us. And I'm going to play Angela. So I saw this in the deck list and I thought about removing it because I don't love the gamble, but it does cost 0, so it's just kind of like one extra throwaway card. If it had a strength resource, I would happily take out the criminal, or if I had any of my resources, any of the cards I've been used as resources that were strength, I would have done that. But my strength cards were Web Bracelet and Ghost Kick. I'm not giving those up. So Angela's going to search the top 10 cards of the deck for a minion. If there is one, we'll put it into play. And if there's not one, well then we don't get her either. She'll discard herself. Problem is there are only 3 minions in the deck, in the villain deck, and one of them is already in play. So not thrilled about our odds, but let's take a look, and no minions. So wasted that card. Yeah, I thought about cutting it, knowing what we're coming up against, but I decided not to. And then here I am playing it. But it was kind of the odd card out. I think I'm gonna wait in alter ego form. So yeah, it'll give me a good setup turn, and I'm gonna have an extra card in addition to the Ghost Kick. I can use the action to ready George, but I didn't have another event. That could have been the other use for like the Angela slot, but none of my other cards were events anyway. So shuffle that back up, and I'm gonna go to the villain phase. We get 6 more cards. The main scheme gets 1 per player threat, and they're actually only one villain will activate. Well, they take turns. So Hobgoblin actually should have the activation token. We can take a look at him now. He's got the activation order 3, which means out of the 6 Sinister 6 villains, he's the 3rd one. But because he and Vulture are the only ones up right now, Vulture is activation order 6. So 3's before 6. Hobgoblin is up first. And as a force response, after he attacks and damages, we'll take 2 indirect damage, but then move the active counter to the next villain. So I guess unless he damages us, he will stay the active villain. So that's how it is. So he's going to scheme for 2 plus a boost of 1. That's 3. Already up, we're up to 7 out of 8. And then we get Common Criminal, fortunately schemes for 0. Then we get this, no, discard upgrade or support. But that's what I spent my whole turn making, upgrades and supports. All right, Gwen Stacy, I guess, is going. I was caught off guard for sure. It's back to my turn. I think I will start out by clearing the Common Criminal. I do have a strength resource to spend to activate that action. Defeated this way, draw a card. I think I need the card. All right, so let's go to hero form, and I'm gonna thwart with Ghost Spider for 1 off of Sinister Synchronization, the main scheme. And after I do that as a response, I'm going to play another Ghost Kick I had from hand, pay for that with Strength, and that's going to do, after she uses a basic power, which she did, the basic thwart, deal 6 damage to an enemy, and that's going to be Vulture. So we'll put 6 damage onto him. And then Ghost Spider's ability kicks in after we played an interrupt or response, ready her. And the Web Bracelet kicks in after we played an interrupt or response, exhaust this, and draw a card. So we got those things happening. Then I'm going to play my Justice card that I added, based on these solo league rules. Spider-Man, Pavir, Prabhakar, and he's going to cost 3. Unfortunately, I have to pay Peter Parker Spider-Man for that, but I didn't really have the resources requirements he had. But we're going to remove 2 threat from a scheme because we have 2 web warriors, and I'll take 2 off the main scheme, bringing it down to 4, and then Spider-Man will attack for 1, taking 1 consequential damage. We'll attack Vulture, which puts him up to 7 damage, which defeats him. So now he says, when defeated, he says a bunch of stuff, activation order 6, his response and everything, but when defeated, remove 4 threat from a side scheme, and that would be light at the end. So 4 threat off of that brings it down to 16. It said if there was no other villain in play, remove 7 instead. So that's a big way to get through the tunnel, is by defeating these villains. So now he's going to be set inside with the other 4, and we still just have the Hobgoblin around. I'm going to play Assess the Situation as the last card in my hand. I get +1 hand size until the end of the phase. Her hand size in hero form is 5, so instead I'll be drawing up to 6. I should have triggered my Sonic Knuckles. I don't have to. So I knew I was going to kill the Vulture, so no reason to mill ourselves off the villain deck. And then we can attack, though, or scheme, or thwart rather, but I think I'll attack. I'm going to attack Hobgoblin for 2 out of his 9 health. And then I will trigger this Shock Knuckles. After your hero makes a basic attack, discard the top of the encounter deck. If no boost icons were revealed, he gets stunned. So he actually successfully stunned Hobgoblin. We can end our turn, draw 6. Those are nice Shock Knuckles coming through on our first attempt there. I'm going to go ahead and check my hand because she actually does have relevant responses during the villain phase. Alright, so 1 threat on the main scheme. We're in hero form, so he'll attack us, but he's stunned, so he won't attack us. And then we get a card, the Team Leader card, attached to the villain with the lowest activation order value. If you cannot resolve the ambush ability on the main scheme, then attach this card to the active villain. And it is a crisis, meaning we cannot remove threat from the main scheme while this card is in play. So we're going to need to defeat Hobgoblin if we want to reduce the threat on Sinister Synchronization. But I'm happy to try to kill Hobgoblin. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and attack with Ghost Spider. Actually, first I'll attack with Spider-Man for 1 damage, putting Hobgoblin up to 3. Then I'll attack with Ghost Spider for 2, putting him up to 5 damage. Except that as a response, I'm going to play Skilled Strike for free. When your hero makes a basic attack, it gets +2 for that attack. So that's actually 2 more damage, up to 7. And because I played a response, I get to ready her and exhaust this to draw a card. Again, I'm foregoing my Shock Knuckles because I'm planning to defeat Hobgoblin. Then I'm going to attack for 2, which is going to be the finishing blow on him, which means Hobgoblin's defeated. He's going to be set aside. He was the last villain, so we actually get to remove 7 from light at the end, bringing it down to 9. And as a response, I'm going to play Phantom Flip. I'm going to pay 2 for that. And that's after she used the basic power, remove 5 threat from a scheme. I'm going to remove 5 from the main scheme. And I'm going to play another copy of Phantom Flip, paying with these 2 cards to bring light at the end down to 4. Now, the reason I did not just put all 10 of that, it would have wasted 1 threat. But in addition to that, if I flip light at the end over to the other side, light at the end on this side, we have 15 threat left to go through, but we'd get the plus encounter card. So I think I'm going to hold that back a little bit and get into a safe zone on the main scheme. That's what I'm thinking, at least. That's my full hand. This time I'm only going to get 5 cards. Do I want... Yeah, let's do Alter Ego. So I will get a hand of 6, and the enemy can scheme. That's fine because we just cleared everything out. So let me get that extra card to work with. So now we get to do something we haven't done before, which is the Sinister Synchronization main scheme says Force Interrupt when a villain would activate if no villain is in play, which is currently the case. Resolve this card's ambush ability and then continue that activation. Ambush, special, choose a set-aside villain at random, put it into play, and place the active counter on it. So we're going to have these 6 villains. I'm going to go ahead and roll a die, 1 to 6 left to right. Got a 6, that's going to be Dr. Octopus coming out, activation order 1. And he's he's got 8 hit points. And if he attacks and damages us, we place a threat on each scheme. He's 2 and 2, so he's going to go ahead and scheme for 2. These can go back to the side. This can go back to here. He'll get the activation token even though he's alone. So 2 plus the boost of 0, plus the one that I should have put at the beginning of the villain phase. And then we'll draw an encounter card, which is Robotic Enhancements. An expert card, blah, blah, blah. We're not playing expert. I normally do not play expert. I very rarely played expert, but the Champion Solo League tells you what mode to play in anyway, and it's standard. So when revealed, put this set aside Dr. Octopus and Scorpion into play. If Dr. Octopus is already in play, confuse a character you control. If Scorpion is already in play, stun a character you control. All right, so it's just telling us to grab Scorpion, and now we're going to have 2 villains, which is actually fine because now that this has 4, if I defeated Dr. Octopus, it would be wasting 3, but now I can defeat a villain, put it to 0 exactly, And then next time I defeat a villain, take all 7. So Scorpion's 5, he's still going to be last. If he hits us, we'll stun a character we control. And he's got 0 schemes, interesting. So that can be discarded. And I have to confuse somebody, which will be Pavir here. I'm okay with that. All right, so let's switch to hero form and attack with Ghost Spider and play Ghost Kick, paying with energy. So it's going to add, after you use a basic power, deal 6 to an enemy. So we're going to do 2 plus the 6 is 8, which is Dr. Octopus's hit points. He's going to go back over to that little villain stack over there. We get to ready her since we played a response. We get to exhaust this to draw a card. We get to remove 4 threat from a side scheme, which puts this down to 0. And now we will be moving on to the chase side. It starts with 5 and it has hinder 10, so it's going to have a total of 15. And if we complete that 15 threat, we win. But now we do have the plus encounter card, which is not too exciting. Assume this will go to him. And I just realized I cheated. So I had the Phantom Flip last turn. I played 2 of them off of the same attack trigger. But it actually says max for 1 basic power use, which is text I've never seen before. So I look back at what I had, and I'm going to waste a card, unfortunately. But I'm going to try to fix it a little bit. And instead of playing the second Phantom Flip, I'm going to play Chase Them Down, because I was attacking and defeating an enemy. So I'm going to remove 2 threat from a scheme instead of 5, which I guess means there's 3 threat back on this main scheme, or it could have been the main scheme or the side scheme. Yeah, I'm going to say the main scheme I took 2 off instead of 5, which means there's 3 more on it. So it's at 6 out of 8. And the other card that I would have been able to play was Assess the Situation to increase my hand size by 1 for this turn. So I'm going to draw a card, kind of an awkward situation to fix, but my mistake. Sorry about that. Because I have another Phantom in my flip in my hand, and I was just reading it more carefully and realized my mistake. But with that +1 card, the main scheme is a little bit more dangerous looking now, but I'm going to go ahead and play Combat Training for 2. That's going to give me +1 attack. And I will play, or I will go ahead and do an attack. And that's going to be against Scorpion for 2, or actually, no, 3. I just played my Combat Training. I will trigger the Shock Knuckles and try to stun him, but I failed. And I will play a Phantom Flip as a response, paying with 2 to remove 5 threat from a scheme. Now, should I reduce that? No, I'm okay. We can afford it. Even if it advances, that's okay. So I'm going to take it off the main scheme, or the side scheme. It's so weird that the side scheme is my win condition, but do that. I'm going to leave Spider-Man, draw, and I'm getting 5 cards, leaving 1 in my deck. So the main scheme gets 1 more, going up to 7. Scorpion will attack, will block with Spider-Man, and he can go. I guess we should check for damage. It's 3 plus 0. That was the Shock Knuckles we wanted. 3 damage to Spider-Man will take him out. Scorpion says if he attacks and damages you, stun a character you control, but he did not. He attacked and damaged Spider-Man. And we'll get an encounter card, which is Loose Ends. Ooh, Treachery from the Down to Earth modular set. So that's another thing about the Champion Solo League. That's part of the setup, is to use this Down to Earth set, even though the setup for this scenario specifically uses a different encounter set. So it says search the encounter deck discard pile, set aside area, and remove from game area for a copy of your obligation and reveal it. During the reveal, if you change to alter ego form, discard a random card. If your obligation was not revealed, it gains surge. All right, so where's our obligation? Worried Father. Give to the Gwen Stacy player, search your deck, hand, and discard pile, and play area for George Stacy, set him aside, attach this to him. Alter ego action, exhaust Gwen Stacy and remove this obligation from the game, add him to our hand. Well, that's harsh. That would really, if you had any card save under him, I think they would just be discarded. So that would be a big bummer. All right, so this is going to be taking our dad out of our discard pile. Let's set this aside. We can exhaust Gwen to add him to our hand, but I think that would mess up her combo because she really needs to, yeah, we're in hero form anyway, so it's not really what we're looking to do. That was it. Let's see if we can beat Scorpion and remove 3 more threat from the side scheme. We'll be done. Not sure if I'll be able to do that, but I'm going to play a second Web Bracelet, paying with Ticket to the Multiverse. You can pause and read that card, but if you look in the bottom left corner, it makes 2 wild resources. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to play, yeah, going to Alter Ego would be interesting because I could shuffle this back into my deck, but I don't think that's what we're looking to do. Actually, maybe I don't spend that card. Maybe that's too good. You know what? I'm going to hold it. I'm going to spend these other 2 cards, but it's still questionable. Oh, sorry. I'm going to attack with Ghost Spider for 3 because of combat training, putting Scorpion up to 6 damage. But I'm going to play Skilled Strike as a response to get +2 damage. So he's at 8 damage out of 10. As a response to that, I can ready her and draw 2 cards, which is gonna shuffle my discard pile into my deck, which means I get an encounter card. But I think this did finish resolving, so that'll be in my discard pile as I shuffle. Well, I skipped an encounter card, didn't I? Should have been on this side, or am I just delirious? I'm sweating like crazy right now. So I skipped an encounter card. Let's see, Ionic Boot. So this is also added based on the campaign setup. Surge attached to the villain. After you attach, villain attacks and damages you, your identity, place 2 threat on the main scheme. Okay, so Scorpion has that, and it had Surge, so we have to go again. I'm okay with the boots. Taunting Presence attached to the villain with the most remaining hit points. If you cannot resolve the ambush ability, threat cannot be removed from light at the end. Okay, so we just have to beat Scorpion before we can remove light at the end, which is fine because that's what we're planning to do anyway. I don't think either of these encounter cards messed me up or impacted anything. So I still get 1 more card from this deck I've been shuffling. Attach the Taunting Presence to Scorpion, and we just need to do 3 more damage to Scorpion, which is 1 more than we needed to take him out. Since he was the last villain in play, it's going to be 7 damage off light at the end, bringing it down to 3, which is still a little bit high. I'm going to play Spider-Man Hobie Brown. Now I'll pay with Ticket to the Multiverse and Bug, and he has 2 thwart, 1 attack, 2 consequential damage on the thwart. Play only if you control a Web Warrior, which we do. When he leaves play, discard the top 3 cards of the encounter deck and deal damage to the villain equal to the number of boost icons. So for now, I think I'm just going to thwart the main scheme to keep it down a little bit. Let's see, if I thwart it for 2 consequential damage, this would go down to 5. We'll automatically get 1, which is 6. And if I go to alter ego form and that new villain comes out, ambushes us, and schemes, that will probably advance it. So maybe I just don't go to alter ego form. It would be a little nice to get an extra card, but I think I'm okay without letting the main scheme advance. So let's ready and draw, add 1, and have a villain ambush. So we're going to roll again to see which villain comes out. Left to right, 1 through 6. 1, Scorpion is back. And he is scheming for 0 plus a boost of 2. It actually does advance anyway. We also got a little star icon. Give the villain 1 additional boost card. Okay, so it's going to be an extra boost of 0, but it doesn't matter because it was going to advance anyway. And we go to 2A. The 6 villains are more confident than ever, determined to bring about your end once and for all. Choose a set-aside villain at random, put that villain into play, and place the active counter on it, even if blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we get another one of the villains. In this case, oops, what was that? I messed up the deck. Shuffle that back in. And we'll do 1 through 5, reroll a 6. A 4 is going to be Electro. So, and he becomes the active villain right away. And then Sinister Beatdown. Electro is actually number 2 anyway. This side also says it starts with 3 per player, so it's going to have 3 on it already. And it basically has all the same text as the first side, except for that if this is completed, we lose. And this time it is only 7. Oh, and that card that was out was my encounter card, but fortunately I saw what it was. So this was our first encounter card. Take 1 for the team. Attach to the villain with the highest attack if you cannot resolve the ambush ability on the main scheme. You cannot attack villains who do not have an attached copy of Take 1 for the team. So the highest attack is Scorpion, so we cannot attack Electro. So that's 2 more health we have to go through if we want to trigger the 4th threat removal. I get a second encounter card, actually 2 more because of that was for reshuffling our deck. This is the regular one, and this is for the scary symbol on light at the end. Shadows of the Past. What do we got here? Oh, he should be ready. All right, so reveal your set-aside Nemesis, put it into play. Reveal your set-aside Nemesis side scheme and put it into play. Shuffle the rest into the encounter deck. So Nemesis is going to be the Lizard coming out. 1 scheme, 3 attack, 5 health. When the villain phase begins, heal 1 damage from the Lizard. So we got a new friend. Is he one of the Sinister 6? Could be. You also get his scheme, regenerative research. Peter Parker's research into the healing properties of lizard DNA has backfired, turning him and all those who come in contact with his serum into reptilian monstrosities. Oh, very interesting. So, and I guess in Ghost Spider's universe, Peter Parker is the lizard instead of Dr. Connors. Force interrupt. When the villain phase begins, heal 1 damage from each enemy. All right, hopefully we can just ignore these problems. These 3 get shuffled in. This is discarded. We got our last encounter card, hopefully. Friends and family. While in hero form, increase the resource cost of each event you play by 1. Alter ego action, discard 1 identity-specific card from your hand. Discard this obligation. That is harsh. Events cost an extra 1 now. But what can we do? All we have to do is remove 3 threat from this and we win. But again, the league rules indicate that the more stuff we can take out, the better. Electro has the activation icon, which means he's technically like the villain. I think if we do something to the villain, we get to choose which villain. Also, the league rules have us count up hit points among enemies. So right now there's 18 hit points among these enemies. We could win the game and still have 18 hit points among enemies, or even 23, and plus this 8 threat here. So to that end, I'm going to be a little bit greedy. Let's attack with Ghost Spider for 3 against Scorpion and play a Phantom Flip. Phantom Flip? Phantom Flip. So that's going to be 3 damage to Scorpion and 5 threat off a scheme. I'm going to take it off the side scheme to improve our score. Played a response so I can ready her and draw 2. I have to pay an extra because of stupid obligation. All right, I'm going to rewind that just for sequencing purposes. Instead, I'm going to be playing Ghost Kick, keeping the Phantom Flip in my hand. So one of these is spent as a resource. Paying 3 for a 2-cost Ghost Kick to do an extra 6 here. So he's at 9 damage. She readied. I'm going to have... Oh, this is so awkward. Because as soon as I finish him off, 4 threat will come off and this we will win. So I'm trying to figure out how I can reduce Electro's health and this before we win. But I can't attack Electro. But I guess this has combined health, so it doesn't matter. So I'll go ahead and attack the Lizard for 3 with Ghost Spider. And then I'll play Phantom Flip. Oh, but now I can't afford it because I only have 2 left. I need 3 because it's an event. It's very much a ripoff. So in that case, I'm going to play assess the situation, paying 1 for drawing an extra card next turn. I'm going to attack Spider-Man into Scorpion for 1 damage. Hobie Brown will be defeated by consequential damage. Scorpion is defeated, and a bunch of stuff happens. Hobie Brown has an interrupt. Actually, I guess the interrupt would happen first. When he leaves play, discard the top 3 cards of the encounter deck and deal damage to the villain based on the number of boost icons, which is, I don't know if you can see that, it is a big 1 damage to Electro. And then because we defeated Scorpion, we'll remove 4 threat from light at a side scheme. I could choose a side scheme. I could choose a different one, but I think it's better to just end it. Let's bring this down to 0. And that was felt a bit sloppy. Did win. I don't know what round it was. Have to go back and check. Got all these obligations stacking up. Definitely needed to go to alter ego form if I want to continue playing this. Like, I would probably go to alter ego, spend a card to discard this obligation, and if she had been ready, yeah, next turn I'd have to get rid of this one as well. Actually, I don't care. George can stay side to side. But anyway, 8 threat and 9 health among enemies is not great, but 10 health, full health, never took any damage. That's not bad, at least. So thanks for watching. If you're participating in the league, let me know how you did in the comments. Subscribe so we get more subscribers, and bye.